In this episode, we're going to look at how to connect to a wired and wireless LAN. I'll show you how to do it and have a discussion of the concepts along the way. Now, when working in a lab or a corporate setting, you should know how to select the appropriate cable and how to properly connect devices. This activity will examine the device configuration, selecting the proper cable based on the configuration and connecting the devices. This activity will also explore the physical view of the network. We'll be discussing connecting to the cloud, connecting to a router, connecting your remaining devices, verifying connections, and then examining the physical topology. Greetings to all my tech heads out there in the KevTechify Nation, and if you're new here, welcome. This episode is part of my series on practical configuration examples for the CCNA. I'm Kevin here at KevTechify. Let's get this adventure started. Connect a wired and wireless LAN. I already have the lab open here. On the left side, I have my lab, my work area where I can interact with the devices. On the upper right side, I have the Word document so I can write my answers in there. And in the bottom right, I have the packet tracer activity window. That's the actual instructions for the packet tracer lab. That's where I can go and check my results as we work through this lab. Let's get started. Here they give us an addressing table. They talk about the different devices, what interfaces are there, what they're connected to, IP addresses, and seeing how that's configured. Here are objectives. We're going to go through, we're going to connect up all these devices. I'm going to talk about the connection types as we work through these. Part 1, connect to the cloud. What we're going to do here in part 1 is connect the cloud to router 1. This is going to simulate at home when you have your internet provider connecting you to your house or something like that. Same thing in a business, that their internet service provider is going to provide them a connection which you're going to connect into the router. Typically we call that an edge router. At the bottom left, click on the orange lightning bolt to see the connection. So over here in Packet Tracer, down here there's an orange lightning bolt. Go ahead and click on that. That gives us our connection sub window here. As you can see, as I mouse over these, they give us different connection types for that. Okay, part B here. Choose the correct cable to connect router 0, fast Ethernet 00 to cloud Ethernet 6. Cloud is a type of switch, so you're to use a copper straight through cable connection. If you attach the correct cable, link lights turn green. What they're looking for is a copper straight through cable. Down here on our connection sub window, as we go and mouse over it, we see that there is one labeled copper straight through connection. Here it is. It's the straight line, straight black line. I'm going to click on it. Now, when I click on it and move my cursor up to the working area, notice it turns in sort of to an end of a cable. And what that means is we can now click on a device and connect it up. So what they're asking for here is on router 0, connect up F00. So we're going to go to router 0. Over here, I'm going to click on it, and it's going to pop up a window. Where do I want to connect this? The directions say connect to router 0, fast Ethernet 00. So I go ahead, I click on fast Ethernet 00. This would be just like you plugged it into that physical port on your device. And then to cloud Ethernet 6. Well, if we go up here, click on cloud, notice there is an Ethernet 6 there. Then all we have to do is click on Ethernet 6. We have that connection. Notice we do have green connection lights, so that means we have a good connection there. No configuration we had to do or anything like that. On part 1, step 2, connect the cloud to the cable modem. Now this probably represents your house more than anything. Use the correct cable to connect cloud coax 7 to modem port 0. Now, if we read this, we can sort of get a hint here that we're looking for a coax cable. Down here on our connection submenu in the bottom of our area, on the bottom left, if we slowly mouse over, we keep mousing, we have a phone one, we have coaxial. So the blue lightning bolt is a coaxial cable. That's probably what we need. Go ahead and click on the blue lightning bolt. Up here, go click on the cloud, and then looking back at the directions, we're supposed to connect it into coax 7. There we are, and now we have this blue lightning bolt following our cursor around. We have to connect it up to, look back over at our directions, to modem port 0. So here's our cable modem. I'm going to go ahead and click on cable modem, and there's port 0. And now it's connected. We have our green lights at the end of each connection, signifying that that connection is good. Now with part 1, on to part 2. Connect router 0. Connect router 0 to router 1. Over here, if we look at our diagram, router 0, we connected up to the cloud already. Now we want to connect router 0 to router 1. Choose the correct cable to connect router 0 serial 000 to router 1 serial 00. These are different types of routers. That's why there's 3 zeros on router 0, and on router 1 there's only 2 zeros. There's different types of routers. They have different types of interfaces. We use one of the available serial connections. If you attach the correct cable, the link lights will turn green. Once again, down here on our connection submenu, we start at the left, automatically choose. We want to actually learn what cables to use. And once again, we are looking for a serial cable. Light blue is console. We have our copper straight through. We have a copper crossover. We have some fiber, phone, coaxial. Oh, here's a serial DCE. DCE. Says choose one of the serials. That's what we'll do. And it goes from router 0 serial 000 to router 1 serial 000. And there it is. I click it, I connect it up. Notice the connection is good. We have green lights on both sides. Step 2, connect router 0 to netacad.pka. For this example here, netacad.pka is a server. It's actually a web server. And so what they're asking for is to choose the correct cable to connect up a router to a server or a PC. Routers and computers traditionally use the same wires to transmit. The correct cable to choose consists of these wires crossed. So there's a hint on what we need. The wires need to be crossed. Although NICs can now auto-sense which pairs used to transmit and receive, router 0 and the web server do not have these auto-sensing features. Once again, we have 2 cables we get to choose from, a straight-through cable and a crossover cable. To use the straight-through cable, we connect it up to almost all of our devices. But the crossover cable is used in special situations. That's where the 2 communication channels get crossed. When we look and see what devices we can use a crossover cable on, the rule is you use a crossover cable when you connect like devices. When you connect like devices, there's one exception to that. Like devices mean when you connect a switch to a switch, a router to a router, a PC to a PC, a server to a server. When you connect the same type of devices to each other, you need to cross those over. You need to have those wires crossed in there. There's one exception. When you go from a router to a PC, a router to a server, a router to a computer, when you go from a router to a PC, that's where you have to use a crossover. For this step right here, connecting router 1 to router 0 to the web server netacad.pka, we need a crossover cable. Down here on our connection submenu, we go and find our copper crossover, which is the black dash line. Go ahead and click on that. And now instructions say router 0, fast Ethernet 0/1. So right here is fast Ethernet 0/1 down to netacad fast Ethernet 0. There we are. Notice we have green lines again. Connect router 0 to the configuration terminal. The configuration terminal is just another PC. That's the PC we have over here on our left. Connect those up. Choose the correct cable to connect router 0 console. So that should give us a clue on what type of cable we need. To the configuration terminal RS-232. Remember, RS-232 is a type of serial connection. This cable does not provide network access, probably not a network cable, but allows you to configure router 0 through its terminal. It doesn't provide network access, so that means it's not in band. We're not using our network, we're not using part of our bandwidth, we're not in our bandwidth to configure, we're outside. And if you remember from an earlier lesson, when we talked in band and out of band, when we were looking at configuring out of band, we need to use that console cable. Down here on our sub menu for our connections, notice the second one in, the light blue sort of circular line there. We mouse over it, it says console, click it on it. Now I go up to the configuration terminal, I'll click on it, and we have a couple choices. It's definitely not a USB. It could go in the fast Ethernet, or it could go in the RS-232. RS-232 is that serial connection. That's what we're going to connect in. So go ahead and click on that. And then router 0 is where we're connecting it to. The console on router 0. So I'm going to go ahead and click on router 0, and there is our serial 001 connection. That's not it. It's the console connection. That's where we have to connect it. We're connecting the two consoles up. This connection is a little bit different when it displays a successful connection in Packet Tracer. Instead of getting green triangles, you're going to get black circles. Black circles here are good news. You made that connection successfully. On to step 3. Part 3, connecting the remaining devices. We're going to go through, we're going to work and connect up the rest of these devices here. Connect R1, router 1 to the switch. Over here looking, we're sort of in the middle of our work area. Router 1's here to the switch. Choose the correct cable to connect router 1 F1/0 to switch F01. Well, last time we had an F terminal, we used the straight through. So I'm going to go down here to our sub menu here, pick a copper straight through, click on that, click on our router. Here is 10, click on it, and it says this cable cannot be connected to that port. So the cable can't be connected to the port. That means you physically cannot connect it. Something must be going on here. Well, let's take a little bit look further. We go up here, and I'm gonna go back down to our selection submenu and click on the stop sign, the cancel sign, so I can get a normal pointer back. If I go back up here and click on router 1, we can get an idea what's happening. So we have this window that opens. I'm on the physical tab. I'm going to make it a little bigger, and I'm going to zoom in. This is what it looks like on the back. We have our power coming in here. We have the on-off switch. We have an auxiliary connection. We have the console connection. We have a fast Ethernet port 00 here. We have a fast Ethernet port 01. But what we're looking for is the 10. Over here is fast Ethernet, and it has the name of 1FE-FX. And if we look here, it looks a little bit different than the traditional normal cable you plug back into the back of your computer. What this actually is, this 1FE-FX, is actually a fiber connection. So instead of that copper straight through cable, we need to connect a fiber connection up to it. I'm going to close this configuration window for router 1. Down here on the sub menu for our connection types, I'm going to go ahead and find the find the fiber one. The fiber one is the yellow diagonal line. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And now go back up to router 1. And if we look at here on the fast Ethernet, if we look to the left of the fast Ethernet, you can almost see that's a different symbol than the fast Ethernet 00 and 01 above it. If you look at the symbols next to the fast Ethernet 00 and 01, that looks like it'll take that network cable, that straight through copper in there. But look at this symbol here. This is the symbol, and this represents how you plug in a piece of copper where it's actually got 2 pieces of copper in it. And go ahead and click on fast Ethernet 01, and notice it makes that connection. We have a red line that follows our cursor. Once again, we connect it down to the switch to F01. So F in this case is probably not standing for fast Ethernet, but standing for fiber. Go ahead and click on that. And as we look here, it's still a fast Ethernet connection because it's Ethernet, but it's that fiber symbol right there. Go ahead and click on that. And notice we have 1 green and 1 orange circle. We have a green triangle and an orange circle. What that is the connection is still negotiating how it's going to communicate back and forth. It's going to take a minute or two for it to turn green, but it will eventually. We've waited a little bit, and here we can see that that red circle has now turned into a green triangle. That signifies that that connection is good right now. It's up, it's running. That's exactly where we need it to be. On to part 3, step 2. Connect the cable modem to the wireless router. Choose the correct cable to connect the cable modem port 1 to wireless router internet port. Choose the correct cable. The link lights on the cable will turn green. Now, to connect those up, those don't sound like similar devices. They don't sound like a PC to PC, router to router, switch to switch. Probably we need a copper straight through cable. Down here on our connection sub menu, I'm going to go ahead and pick that copper straight through cable. Come up here to the cable modem. It says connect into port 1. If we notice a symbol, it does look like it will take that unshielded twisted pair RJ45 connector in there. We'll connect that up there. Connect it to the wireless router to the internet port, or this would also be labeled as your WAN port. Go ahead and connect that up. Notice we have our 2 green triangles signifying both ends are good. Step 3, connect the wireless router to the family PC. Going from a router to a PC, once again, not similar devices. We can use that copper straight through cable. Wireless router Ethernet 1. Looks like that RJ45 port again. Down to the family PC. And once again, that cable plugs into the fast Ethernet. Notice we have that orange circle there. Give it a minute, it will turn green again. I hope you're liking this episode on practical configuration examples. Leave a comment on what you think about these configuration examples. If you still have a question or comment, please let me know below. You can also visit my website at KevTechify.com for all of my details and how to get these episodes in video and podcast form. And now we can see that they turn green. It took about 20 to 30 seconds for it to turn green. It'll probably take it that long when you do it on your end. On to part 4, we're going to verify our connections. We're going to test the connectivity from the family PC, that's the one we just connected up, to the netacad.pka. Once again, that is a web server. Open the family PC. I'm going to slide it over a little bit. Open the command prompt and ping that address. And that, for our scenario, that is a valid working address. So go to the desktop. I like to expand this window out a little bit more so I can see everything. Open up the terminal, open up the command prompt, and then we're going to ping. So that once again, the command for that is ping, and then we just type in netacad.pka and hit enter. And we wait for the pings to be sent, and then we wait for the pings to be received. It takes a little bit. We wait a little bit more. Wait a little bit more. We're waiting. Still waiting. And there we go. It took a while. And what happened here was the devices along the way, I'm going to move the family PC window over a little bit, but our wireless router, our cable modem, going through the cloud, router 0, they all had to learn and communicate back and forth behind the scenes to learn where that is. So that's why it took so long to start with. Now, if we would ping it again, and how do we ping it again? Easy, up arrow. Up arrow is your friend. It just repeats that last command you did. Go ahead and hit that. Notice the ping happens right away. Why does it happen right away? Because now we know that route. First time it took us a little bit to figure it out how to get there. If we ping it a second time, we know that. Back to part 4, step 1, line B. Open the web browser and the web address of http netacad.pka. I'm going to close the command prompt on this window here where the command prompt in blue. If you go all the way over to the right, there's next. Go ahead and click on that. We are on our desktop tab. Go on over, click on the web browser. Going to open it up. Here in the URL line, we're going to put in our web address, and that was netacad.pka. Hit enter. There is our web page. It says my netacad.pka, my favorite web page. That's what you should do. That is what we got from that web server as it goes all the way through the network, from the family PC to wireless router, cable modem, through the cloud, which basically represents the internet, to router 0, and then to the netacad.pka web server. Processes the web request, sends it all the way back, and then displays it on our page. That's what we get. On to step 2 of part 4. So I'm going to go ahead, close family PC, open the home PC command prompt, click on home PC. I'm going to slide it over a little bit. Open up the command prompt, so go to the desktop tab. Once again, I like to slide it open a little bit. Click on command prompt. There we go. Ping the switch IP address to verify the connection. Well, we start off with ping space and then the switch IP address. Well, we can get the switch IP address from the top here in our addressing table. Look it up right here. We have 172.16.0.2. 172.16.0.2. Go ahead, hit enter. We might have to wait a couple seconds here again for it to learn where it is. Oh no, timed out. Timed out. Oh, but it found it. Now, this time, it aired out. It timed out twice before it found it. Once again, what was happening behind the scenes, it was going from the home PC and it was learning how to get to switch 1. So we had to go from home PC to wireless router to the cable modem, through the internet cloud to router 0 to router 1 to the switch. So that's what the 2 requests timed out there is showing us, that it had to figure out the route. Now, if we go and up arrow and ping it again, all 4 should work right away. We'll head back down to part 4. That completed step 2. We're on to part 4, step 3. Open up router 0. Go ahead and close the home PC from the configuration terminal. Open up router 0 from the configuration terminal. Now we're going to use the configuration terminal PC to connect into router 0 using that console cable we set up earlier. Open the terminal of the configuration terminal and accept the default settings. Going over here, clicking on the configuration terminal PC, opens up the configuration window. Desktop, once again, I like to make it a little bit bigger here. We are to open up the terminal here. Click on terminal, opens it up. Take the default settings. Once again, you're probably going to see these numbers someplace. The bits per second of 9600, data bits of 8, parity of none, stop bits of 1, flow control of none, 96, 8, none, 1, none. I would memorize that because you will probably see that in the future. That's the default settings. Those are the settings you need to make the console work on Cisco devices. Routers, switches, access points, firewalls. All those devices that have console connections, those are the settings you need to use. Go ahead and click OK to accept them. And we are in here. First thing I normally do is hit enter a couple of times, and it says router 0, so somebody set the host name. We have that up and going. We are here in our terminal using our console connection. On to step 3, line B. Press enter. We did that a couple of times. View the router 0 command prompt. Now type in show IP interface brief to show the interface statuses. Okay, show IP interface brief, and that gives us a view of our interfaces. Let's look at that. Fast Ethernet 00 is up and it's running. Fast Ethernet 01 is up and it's running. Serial 00 is up and running. Now, does this make sense? If we go back over here and look at router 00, we have 4 connections going into it. 1, 2, 3, 4, but we only have 3 interfaces here that are up, that are running. Well, it should. Remember, one of those connections, the one going to the configuration terminal, that is a console connection. That is an out-of-band connection that's not using our network, does not take any of our resources, does not take any of our bandwidth. When we type in the show IP interface brief, it's not an interface. It's just a way to configure our devices. That gives us 3 interfaces here, which then, if we don't count the console, 1, 2, 3, that makes sense. They're all, status is up, protocol is up, that's a signal they're all doing good. Serial 01 is down and down. Well, why is that? Well, we didn't connect it to anything, so it's down. And then we had this VLAN 1. We didn't configure anything on it, so we didn't have to turn it on. That's why it's not on. This makes sense. So everything looks great now. On to part 5. Examine the cloud. So I'm going to close this configuration terminal PC window. Click in the physical workspace tab or press Shift P or Shift L to toggle between logical and physical workspaces. What they're looking for is, if we look over here in the upper left corner, right above our work area, there's a logical button, there's a physical button. What they want us to do is go ahead and click on the physical button, and that turns us into, and this would be the physical layout of your network. How your cables are run, where your routers and switches are, where your racks and your servers are located, how those wires are ran. That's what this tab is going to represent. Going back, clicking on the logical, this is the logical diagram, this is the physical diagram. Okay, part 5, step 1. Click on the home city icon. This is the home city icon, so go ahead and click on it, and notice it zooms in to our network. And if we look here, some of this, we had a home network, we had the cloud, and we have a primary and secondary network. If we go back to logical, this would be the primary network here. This would be the secondary network. We have our home network. We have the cloud. We have the primary network here. We have the secondary network here. Back clicking on the physical tab to give us our physical layout. Click on the cloud icon. Down here, this is the cloud icon. Go ahead and click on it. How many wires are connected to the switch in the blue rack? Well, if we go and we look at that, we will count 1, 2, and 3. But the power cord does not count as a cable here. It does not count as a connected wire. What we're looking for are wires connected to other devices. This is a power one, does not get counted. What we have here then is just 2 cables. And this sort of looks like a coax cable, one that screws into the back of your TV or into the back of your cable modem. This here is our fast Ethernet. Answer the question, how many wires are connected? We have 2. Click back to return to the home city. Up here, once again, up where the logical and physical was, if we go a little bit over to the left, there's this arrow that sort of points backwards. That is our back button. Go ahead and click it. It brings us back to our physical topology. Examine the primary network. Once again, to examine the primary network, you just come over here, click on the primary network. Question, what is located on the table to the right of the blue rack? I don't see a table. What's there? We can do this in 2 different ways. One way would be to zoom out. Let me zoom back in. Or you could go and scroll over. I like to zoom out so I can see it. And here, this looks like a computer, a desktop computer, configuration terminal. This must be the configuration terminal PC that we used to console into the router a couple minutes ago. Now, to answer that question, what's located on the table? The configuration terminal PC. Click back. Once again, this is the back button. And now we're back in the home city. Examine the secondary network. Secondary network. Go ahead and click on it. Why are there 2 orange cables connected to each device? Well, I really can't see anything here. What I'm going to do is zoom in. I clicked zoom twice and it brought me here. Why are there 2 orange cables connected to each device? Look here. This is one orange cable. This is another one. Down here we have another orange cable and a second orange cable. There are 2 orange cables connected to router 1 and to the switch. Remember when we connected this in, we didn't use a straight through or a crossover. What we used was fiber, and fiber comes in pairs a lot of times. Data can go in one direction down one piece of fiber, data can go the other direction in the other piece. So we install fiber in pairs. Now to answer the question, fiber is installed in pairs. One for receiving and one for transmitting. There we go. Click the back button to return to the home city. On to step 4, last step here. Examine the home network. Why is there no racks to hold the equipment in the home network? Okay, let me click on that. Let me zoom out. I zoomed way out. Why aren't there racks to hold the equipment in the home network? Well, do you have a rack in your home to hold your networking equipment? I know a couple people, but the majority of people, they just don't have racks in their network. To answer the question, home networks typically don't have racks. There we go. We're at the end of the lab. Before we quit the lab, let's go back and look at the packet tracer activity window, just to check and make sure we've done everything the lab is looking for. Over here in the bottom right, this is the packet tracer activity window. Down here, there is the check results button. I am going to go ahead and click on that. And what that's going to tell us is how we're doing. It says, congratulations, you successfully completed the packet tracer connecting wired and wireless LAN activity. Now let's go ahead and click on the assessment tab. Notice we have all green check marks all the way through here. We've done everything successfully, everything the lab was looking for. On the right side here, we've got a score 80 out of 80, so that's 100%. Item count, we've got 16 out of 16. We have 16 green check marks and no red X's. We have done well. That is the end of the lab, and there you go. It was my pleasure to provide you with this wonderful episode on configuration examples. If you like this episode and you got value out of it, please click that like button, give a 5-star rating, leave a comment. This all helps me bring you more great content. Please take a minute to subscribe to my channel. All my socials and contact information are on my website, KevTechify.com. There you can find out how to get all these episodes in video and podcast form. Thank you so much for watching this episode of my series on practical configuration examples for the CCNA. I've created 4 wonderful playlists for you on the CCNA. These episodes, I go through all the concepts that Cisco calls out for the CCNA. Once again, I'm Kevin. This is KevTechify. I'll see you next time for another great adventure.